Welcome back to the Wiki tutorial video series. My name is Tom Albany with Biostack Global Consulting. In this video, we will present a quick overview of the various kinds of output produced during a Wiki run. If you have not yet run Wiki for the first time, please see our video titled, How Do I Run Wiki? Today's scenario is relatively straightforward. After completing the Wiki run discussed in our last video, the District 20 RI output folder will contain several types of output: an Excel file which contains both a log of the Wiki run and the tabular output of the results, and folders which contain both the graphic outputs and datasets generated by Wiki for each of these selected indicators. We will explore each of these four outputs in greater detail in a series of short videos that will follow this one. While reviewing these outputs, it may be useful to have both the Wiki User's Guide and the Results Interpretation Quick Reference Guide. Both documents can be downloaded through the Wiki Users Group on the TechNet 21 website. The Results Interpretation Quick Reference Guide is particularly helpful in understanding specific results. If you are not already a member of the Wiki Users Group on the TechNet 21 website, take a moment to sign up now. You need to be a member there to access files you are working with today. The Wiki Users Group is also your one-stop shop for downloading Wiki programs, tutorials, and documentation. These items can be found under the Files section of the group webpage. The Wiki log is a verbose record of settings and progress of the program selected to run within Wiki. It is saved as the first or leftmost worksheet in the Microsoft Excel file that holds tabulated output. Let's have a look at the log for the District 20 run. In the normal workflow, we have a quick look at the log after each Wiki run to determine whether the program encountered any errors or generated any warnings. When you open the worksheet, all errors and warnings appear at the top of the worksheet in red and yellow cells respectively. If there are no red or yellow cells, there were no errors or warnings. In that case, the log is typically not much of interest to the Wiki user, and they may move on to look at other parts of the output. If you encounter problems running Wiki that you are not able to debug, then the Wiki developers would likely ask you to send them your log along with your control program and possibly your input files. By default, the log is sorted by the priority of the log messages, so errors and warnings appear at the top of the worksheet. When Wiki developers want to debug an error, it is common to sort the spreadsheet on the first column, which puts the log entries into chronological order instead of message priority order. Note that the log is automatically generated by Wiki. There is no option to suppress the log in the Wiki control program. Remember, if there is a hard failure while running Wiki, where Stata fails without displaying a Wiki billboard, you will need to type wiki_cleanup in the Stata command window. Among other things, this program places the log into the Excel file. Tabular output may also be included in the Excel file within the designated output folder. Each tab in the Excel file represents the tabular output from an individual indicator. Generally, there is one spreadsheet tab per indicator. The Quick Reference Guide, which can be found under the Wiki Supporting Documents folder, is a useful tool for interpreting this tabular output. Within the output, the rows represent the different strata within the dataset. The user has control over which level or levels of the strata the data are summarized, as well as the names and order of the strata. The columns in the output represent the summary statistics across different strata specified by the user. The default output includes some tables that may be too wide for many users' needs. There are several options for users to fit this information into a report. Users can hide some of the columns in a tabular output table, modify the Wiki programs to list fewer columns, or they can write a program to read result databases and make custom tables. These options will be discussed further in upcoming videos. If the user does not want to generate tabular output, it may be suppressed by changing a single line in the control program. The default is Viki_global export_to Excel 1. To suppress tabular output, change it to Viki_global export to Excel, and then change that to a 0. The Viki suite of programs generates 3 types of figures that we call organ pipe plots, unweighted proportion plots, and inchworm plots. Any of these plots may be suppressed in the Viki control program. Each of these plots has a separate video describing how to interpret it. Those videos may be accessed via the links popping up on the screen now. The WHO Cluster Survey Reference Manual also describes these type of figures. The PDF manual can be found in the TechNet 21 site under Files. The first type of plot is the organ pipe plot. Let's look at the plot named RI_coverage _01 _1 _OPP plot _BCG _01 test district number 20.png. Each column in the figure represents a cluster, and the shaded portion of a column represents the proportion of respondents who were vaccinated. This shows variability in the sample coverage at the cluster level and allows you to identify clusters with surprisingly low coverage. The second of the plots that Viki produces is the unweighted proportion plots. Let's look at RI_qual _09_1 UW plot BCG _001 1.png. These figures show Viki outcomes that are not weighted but represent the portion of the survey sample that have a particular property. Each row is a stratum, and the horizontal axis portrays 0 to 100%. The estimated proportion is portrayed with a small triangle. The numbers at the right side of the row list the specific estimated proportion along with the sample size in that stratum. Finally, inchworm plots summarize confidence intervals for estimated population level proportions. Let's look at RI_coverage _01 _1 IW plot BCG _0011 1.png. Again, each row is a stratum, and the horizontal axis represents estimated coverage from 0 to 100%. Each row holds a shape with a base that is wider than its top. The base of the shape extends across the two-sided 95% confidence interval for the estimated proportion. The tip of the shape shows the location of the point estimate. Conceptually, these plots are generated by stacking many confidence intervals for the estimate, starting with the 95% CI at the bottom and moving gradually up to a 0.01% CI at the tippy top. The wider these inchworm plots are, the greater the uncertainty associated with the estimate. For any particular row, we might say if the survey is free of important biases, then we are 95% confident that the population coverage level falls within the 95% confidence interval represented by the inchworm shape. Each shape is usually accompanied by 2 small tick marks. These represent the lower and upper one-sided 95% confidence bounds, and are useful for classifying whether coverage is likely to be above or below a fixed threshold. The inchworm plots that Viki produces by default have 3 numbers at the right side of every row. Those numbers list the one-sided lower confidence bound, the point estimate, and the one-sided upper confidence bound. For additional details on interpreting inchworm plots, watch the video that is dedicated to that topic. It is impossible to anticipate every requirement and whim of a project. For this reason, Wiki also provides datasets of results for each indicator, as well as an augmented dataset which merges the original survey dataset with Wiki's derived outcome variables. Advanced Wiki users may import results datasets into Excel or other programs to make customized tables or figures. Wiki always makes the results databases during its run. If the user is not interested in using them, there is an option to have Wiki delete them at the end of the run. Block D has the following line of code: wiki_global delete _wiki_databases_at_end. A 1 will remove the databases, and a 0 will retain them. Note that in the control program for District 20, we specified a 1, so the datasets were deleted. If you want to see them, go back and change the 1 to a 0 and rerun the control program. The datasets of results usually have the word database in their file name. Let's explore RI_coverage_01_1_BCG_A_database.dta. Result databases are simply Stata datasets. They have one row per stratum. This row includes ID variables and outcome variables. If the user requested tabular output, then the figures that appear in the Excel tables will correspond to the figures stored in the results database. Watch for a short video in the future describing additional details about the results database and for future tutorials on how to use them to make your own tables and figures. That brings us to the end of our overview for Wiki output. Please watch the next series of videos which will go into greater depth with output from both single-stratum and multi-stratum runs. Also, please check back in the future for more in-depth discussion of the individual outputs we showcased in today's video. You may use the links below to post a comment or question about this video, join the Wiki users group at TechNet21, or to see a complete list of Wiki resources.